Hi, in this video, we will talk about constructors in C Sharp. So, what are constructors? Constructors are basically methods which are executed when an object of that class is created. So, there are five types of constructors in C Sharp, and we're going to look them one by one. So, we'll start with default constructor. So, let's create a class. We'll take an example of a mobile class. Okay, and we'll create one main method. Okay, in this mobile class, I'm going to declare one property which will be price. And in the main class, we'll do, okay, before we create an object of this mobile class, I want to show you something. Uh, so I'm going to take an integer x and I'm going to do a console and write line. See, there's a compilation error here. It says use of unassigned local variable x. Now, similarly, this price also is unassigned if you look at it. But if I create an object of this mobile class, and if I do mobile dot price, there is no compilation error. The reason being, uh, this class, if it does not have a constructor, then C Sharp automatically implicitly calls in constructor where the default value for that particular type is assigned. So what is that default value? It's 0. So it's 0 for int type, for string type and object type, it's null. Okay. Now let's create the constructor. So constructor has the same name as that of class. It's kind of a method, and in this I'm gonna initiate this price property with 5,000, and I'm gonna run this. See, the price is 5,000. So if we explicitly do not mention this default constructor, the compiler will automatically implicitly will call one, and the value will be defined based on the type of that product. The other type of constructor that we have is called parameterized. And in this, I'm going to say int price, this dot price. Okay, I'm going to call 4,000 here. So here in the parameterize, we put the we give the parameters to set the properties with different values that we can uh, set upon creation of the object. The other type, the third type here is the copy type, copy constructor. Now in copy constructor, we pass on the object of similar type, and we assign the properties based on that object. So this dot price is equals to, now you will ask a question that we can just pass on the different properties here. Why do we need a copy constructor? So this is just one property. In case there are more than 10, 15 properties there, and let's say that we have two mobiles that are of same type. We have mobile 1 and mobile 2. Mobile 1 and there are just one difference of screen size somewhat. So we can pass on that variable, assign all the properties except that one. So instead of naming each properties passing 4,000, comma, screen size, comma, RAM, we can just simply pass on the entire mobile, and internally we can map the properties. So that's why that's where copy constructor helps. The next constructor that we have is private constructor. So for private constructor, if I make this constructor directly private, what will happen? It won't be allowing me to create an object. So private constructor helps in working with static kind of properties. So I'm gonna create a property called counter, okay? Or maybe just count. Uh, okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an object using the parameterized constructor, and I'm gonna do mobile.count to access the static properties. We access the static properties using the class name dot property name. So now I'm gonna run this program, and the count is 0 because it is defaulted to 0. Now why it's 0? So in the private one, if I assign it to 1, what will happen? Will it get 1? No, it will still be 0. As the private constructor only gets called when after the object's creation. If we need to call it this way, this will be called when this constructor will be called. So since it's internal to this class, this private is accessible to this constructor. Now, if I run this, and I'm gonna increase this one count with this one. If I run this is 1. Okay. If I create another object, okay, and this time of some other price and random number, okay, and with some other name, and I do mobile.count, this will be 2. Okay, so the private constructor helps to work with static properties. It's inaccessible outside, and we cannot directly explicitly call this constructor. The uh, remember one thing for private constructor, that this constructor gets called every time when there's a class created of when there's an object created of class type mobile. This constructor will get called. That's why the count keep on increasing as we create objects. Now let's the final type that we will discuss here is so I'm gonna clean this up. The final type that we'll discuss here is called static type. And again, with static types, it also works with static properties. Again, it won't, no, and similarly, it won't allow us. This will allow us to create objects. Why? Because if you look at it, it's not actually calling this constructor. It's calling the default constructor, which is implicit. So, how does static helps? So, if like for example, I said if it run this now, this is one. If you remember, when we were calling the private mobile constructor, okay, it wasn't the value that we were getting was 0, but in case of static, we are getting it as 1. The reason is static gets called before the object is created, and the private gets called after the object is created. Now, one more thing, the difference between static and private is with the case of private, if you were creating multiple objects, the value was getting increased. But in case of mobile, uh, even if I create multiple objects, the value will increase just once. So it's still 1. And no matter how many objects created, it will still be 1. Okay. The reason being, this gets called once only. It won't get called every time an object of this class is created. And so static deals with, so the difference between private and static is the private gets called every time an object is created, and static gets called only once. We learn more about static constructor and private constructor when we work with singleton design pattern. Uh, for this video, I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.